Here we are in Scandinavia. What promises to be a bloodletting turn anyhow, the first turn after the enforced peace, just got worse. Something called, an event called Tears Call came up. And every single area produced a unit, well, except the neutrals, produced a unit of its own type. So now we've just got hordes of forces in the back areas where they're not really needed, and who knows if they'll actually, those will be maintained because they're an expense. But all the front lines and intermediate areas just gained an additional unit. Which, if you're out of elves, for example, kind of sucks for the elf king. But in fact, given that he had the stronger unit positioning than the necromancer, he was probably happier with the situation without this, because now Orcum finally got some troops. Alright, good old Orcum got kind of lucky here. He ended up getting the dragon, and only for 11. Basically the elf, remember these are sealed bids, the elf essentially must have forgotten. The way I do my auctioning, I roll dice to see if they put an initial bid, etc. Well, the elf didn't put his initial bid in. Orcum did, and he went a little higher. And so now he's got the dragon. Okay, sounds like a minor speed bump. Look, I mean, that's a humongous stack. There are some problems, though. One is, Orcum's the guy who can make things fanatic, including the dragon, I guess. So for a significant cost, he can double the strength of that unit and really wax any attack. There's also the fact that, yeah, I could go out and I could take Halsingar, which is weaker, or will be, because the dragon's not there. But, one, my troops are kind of more better positioned for taking out the one location. But they're able to go after either this turn with the big elf stack, and that's sufficient. But the big problem here is, once I take this, I open up a front with the necromancer. I'm not sure I really want to do that. In fact, Yurik is kind of considering taking that. So I may go all out against the dragon and try to wipe it out. I think I should still have enough strength to be able to take it out. It's just going to be a more costly attack. Anyway, now we're up to building units. And everybody, we're almost out of money. This is all that's left of the money in the trays. You know, I mean, this is a stack of 50s. The hundreds or the tens all went kind of there in one big swoop. I don't know what to do if I run out of money. I mean, the game doesn't specify one way or the other. And whether it did or not doesn't really matter. There's a question of whether this game would have the same kind of advantage to hoarding money that Empires of the Middle Ages does. I don't think it will. I don't think that there's... because money doesn't translate into combat power, except maybe with orcs. So I don't think... I think giving people unlimited money, letting them write stuff down and stuff, will work fine. Okay, now here we slide into the military phase. Forces have built up as much as they really can. Actually got some growth here on Orcon. Mareth's worried. He's worried about an attack on this. With all the guards, with the dragon, with everything else. He can pay a premium to either force him to be outbidding and draining his cash. Halsingar is not really an issue because I'm going to, again, drop my magic in these two areas. The one problem I have is here in Corrigan, there's a big army with giants, undead, etc. The Lord has moved there in order to produce more undead. And then also I have the possible danger of fleets. We built another ship here, being able to intervene largely anywhere they like. So the necromancer is trying to find his way out of the effect of his spells. These, I've got them placed here. I haven't downgraded the 2 provinces that I'm whacking, though. But, you know, as long as the elf himself is kind of tied up here, it means one big stack can face Yorick. Maybe, maybe not. It's a long walk in. I want to get these extra couple giants there, so I'm going to slide through. Yorick didn't build any forces this turn. The other alternative, of course, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, still doesn't get me here. And since I'm maintaining my alliance in Helsinger, it doesn't get me that either. I don't know if it could have. 2, 3, 4, 5. Nah, that's too far away too. So I've got kind of a long trek. This wouldn't be the case if I was playing the basic game. I'm really liking how the hexes kind of prevent you. They provide certain interesting situations. So, for example, this is not where you would defend Glorian, right? If you're defending it, you'd be here. From here, I could hit any of these 3, 4 provinces with a 1 movement unit in the basic game. But here in the advanced game, if I want to hit these capital cities here, I have to put myself out in kind of a more exposed place. It creates some disincentive for putting yourself in a position to attack because somebody else could stab you or whatever. That's not really the case in this particular circumstance, but it was creating some interesting situations when Orcum had both of these and the elves were just here, where they couldn't really launch an attack out of Glorian. They had to launch it out of somewhere else. Another invasion, essentially. Anyway, definitely some interesting little tactical decisions on the battlefield type thing here. It's funny, I didn't load this up to Consim World, and I probably won't, because there are a lot of fantasy games and maybe science fiction games that I consider, you know, I think this is kind of a war game, but I wouldn't really... I wouldn't want to afflict it on people who are largely into the historical sims. So usually I kind of hold off on putting my fantasy and science fiction unless it's from the old days, you know, of SPI in particular, but maybe some other things. I think I put Dark Emperor up there. This is less of a war game maybe than Dark Emperor because of this multiplayer diplomatic dynamic. I mean, things like Barbarian Kings and a whole bunch of other games, things that I've played that just wouldn't feel at all right putting up there. Tim Jim's Throne World would be an example. Time Agent. They feel like the same kind of thing. Space Empires, where, you know, but if I go down that road, I feel like I'd have to put War for the Throne on there. Stuff like that. I just don't want to push all these fantasy and science fiction games out into an area which is, you know, maybe accepts that those are war games, but is more focused on what I'd consider to be, well, not what I'd consider. It's more focused on the historical simulations. So, yeah, I can go really babble forever, right? Especially when I know nobody's watching anymore. All right. So on with this military endeavor. Let's see how much fun we... All right, yeah, the elf chickened out, moved into Halsinglar instead and captured that. Facing this just looked too bloody. And then, who knows, maybe the dragon's there again next turn. Next turn, I have to attack this. I lost a few elves, actually maybe one or two. Attack, actually no, it's more than that. Right? Yeah, 3 elves were lost. Attacking there. But that's fine. You know, I can rebuild elves pretty easily. That means I get 1 for free back here. And then the 2 others, well, who cares? You know, I mean, I've got tremendous amounts of force brought to bear here, bringing more Pegasi into place. I've got a humongous army that even if the dragon does show up there, I'm better prepared next turn. Of course, maybe Orcum builds more troops, but so what? There will be a climactic battle in that location. Here, I was able to grab Courland and Hedukin, and now all the provinces have fallen, and What, that gives me 12 for the elves. The necromancer is trying to talk Yorick into, hey, let me slip through, I'll attack Hallangar, and then you and I can kind of get together and be neutral together. That doesn't make sense for Yorick, though. In the end, he has to beat the necromancer. He has to forge his way forward for him to come out ahead somehow of the elf. So he really does have to stay with his alliance, and the elf's helping him tremendously in this task. Obviously, that help will stop if Yorick ends up becoming anywhere near the size, but that's not going to happen. I think both sides know that, and Yorick sees no reason to help the necromancer here, who's been his enemy and really knocked him out of the being in the running of the game at all. Alright, well, we move to poor Orcam, who really has very little to do. I could make an attack. Hey, see if I get a lucky shot on the elf in Elfland. I'm not sure what the numbers are. It looks strongly against me. I can't bring the dragon, but I have a +3 leader. It might be my best option. I can't reach here. I can't actually take any territories. But if I can wipe out that army, I'm at least weakening the elves. I'll think about it. But facing these kind of situations, the hopeless situation where you know you're going to lose either way, the only question is, where do you have the more slender little chance? Well, in this case, I'm outnumbered fairly heavily. I have 24 strength points. If I spend my magic, that puts me up to 40, or 24, 30. I'm attacking an elven force that I believe comes to 45. I'm going for it because I just do not see a chance here. And next turn, I get the initiative counter, which means I could sling in, grab Glorian, and now I have 2 provinces, and I'm causing little problems in the back, and maybe, just maybe, something good will shake out of it. The other option is hold out and hope the necromancer can save my ass, and that doesn't look likely. It looks like the necromancer is having enough trouble that the only way that the necromancer is going to be able to save my ass is if I can shake things up. So I've gone for it. The big advantage here is I have a +3, and I have a shot at capturing Mara. Not much of one, but a shot. So let's go for it. I don't have fear on my side or anything like that. I'll use the blue die for the elf. I have a +3 to my die roll. They have a +1. He can't use his living trees because he's used up all his magic pinning down the necromancer's 2 territories. Okay, got a big roll of 13. On the 30 table, that's going to give me 22 extra strength points. But unfortunately, this looks pretty big too. An extra 20 strength points. 65 to 52, I lose. But the elf is down to 13, which means he only gets to keep 2 of his elves. And at this point, we're beginning to lose enough elves that it is actually impacting his strength. However, this was definitely a victory for the elf overall, and it has weakened Orcam's defensive position significantly. And the rest of the turn is somewhat anticlimactic, with the necromancer moving into position with a couple of his units, and Yorick just gathering his forces up here at the capital. You know what I was thinking? I've been thinking in a lot of ways about this game, that it could be significantly modified. So take the hexes. Start throwing defensive adjustments, okay? So that most units get, say, a +1 in mountains or forest or whatever. But certain kind of troops negate that completely. They don't give the defender the bonus, and certain troops would get a increased bonus if not faced with the enemy troops. There's just so much you could start to add to this. from a tactical side that wouldn't be hard to tweak around and tinker with. I don't think it's a terribly balanced game in terms of the powers. For example, I think Orcham's kind of weak, maybe because I keep forgetting to use his power. I think Sandra's kind of weak. The Merchant I'm not so sure about. I think he had kind of a kick-ass power, but one that fits in differently than some of the others. And then the Necromancer, I think, is weak if people hit him early. He's weak early in the game, but he has this ability that grows quite potent once he can build an empire that actually sustains itself, as opposed to just wrecking things. Well, just the conquest element that kind of he's driven towards by all those undead units. They're very good at conquering, and putting them in battle is a good thing, which is why this is so hampering on him. He can't fight. He can fight, lose lots of units, and get back units he doesn't have to pay points for. Anyway, what I'm saying is there's a lot of room for adding stuff like that. There's also, of course, room for adding the kind of stuff like a more detailed diplomatic system and everything like that. But that's almost like major design work of a sort that I don't know how many hints there are towards that. You know, could you overlay an Empires in Arms / EU type diplomacy system on a game like this? I guess. You could conceivably even, you know, change how the miners operate. Instead of just being a single schwack, they'll have some kind of nominal forces that they can actually operate with or whatever. I'm not sure that's necessary. I don't want to tinker too much with the economics of this game, because I think that's actually where it's very cleverly designed. But I see very little problem in starting to make the hex grid more important than it is. Anyway, that's just some ideas that, you know, most fantasy games I don't feel have that extra little oomph that could be added very easily, but this one I really see that it could. Something like Barbarian Kings, how much could you add to it without just, you know, designing more game, as it were? In this case, if you're throwing in a terrain effects chart and extending that to include combat ability, well, that's a pretty minor change, but it could have significant tactical effects on the game. All right. Babbling away again. Like I said, not much more happened in the turn. Now I've got to pay my my maintenance fees, and we'll see how devastating they are. Because there are a lot of armies on the map, but people have a lot of money. And the real question is how sustainable they are, the armies. Right now, I think everyone can pay for them because they had 3 turns to gather up tons of money. But they may not be long-term sustainable. In terms of the money the big boys, the Elf and the Necromancer, are paying, it is sustainable. Certainly for the Elf. The Necromancer is probably breaking about even, which means slowly the degradation of the territories over a wartime period will cause an issue. He paid about 140, but he's got a lot of stuff out in the field that he can't do anything with. I might want to have not had this Viking that somehow got stuck in there. He walked in there accidentally and got frozen. The Elf, on the other hand, paid about 100 total, I think. And you'd say, wow, that's kind of weird, because he has an army. Okay, granted, it's not, mostly not in places where he's paying full price, but he's got an army that's, he has to actually pay for, whereas the Necromancer has this hidden bonus free army of undead. The Elf had his Elf army sitting here, but now that's not very big anymore. What it really comes down to is the Elf's army is quite smaller and weaker at this point, but in addition to his 100 or whatever, he had to pay another 20 towards Urik's army, and Urik had to pay 26 for it, and that is all in encampments, etc. So, I don't know. Right now I feel like the advantage is in the Elves' hands, just because of being able to freeze the territories, But we'll see once this actually gets to land a blow somewhere. I've got a bunch of giants that could hit either Yurik, which would probably be suicidal, but they could also hit Halsinger. Of course, if they do that, the undead gets peeled off from it. And that may not be a wise move, because then Yurik can strike the undead, unless they stay up in the mountains up there. Anyhow, that's what we got. So the game comes with a bunch of named heroes, and the random events table just generated the first of these. Now these aren't completely described. This guy's Ermaneg. His powers and everything are, but just how he's attributed isn't. They tell you where he starts though. So he's a neutral hero. I don't know what that means. But he starts in Herdican, and the only thing I can figure is to give him, unless maybe some earlier oh no, that's wrong. No, I just got mercenaries for the first player. Sorry, I rolled, I thought I saw this. This is actually a legendary hero rules. That's not what we got. But anyway, the rule for it is, I guess if you own that territory, you get this hero. And this one would have been a guy who flies around magically and can carry a unit with him. Which is kind of cool, especially since he has lots of movement points. Although the rules here don't match the counter, and I think the counter is more reasonable. I think. I'm not sure. Anyway, it matches other numbers better. So what we've actually got is, if Yurik pays 15 gold, he's going to get 2 infantry, a hero, and a riders. And, well, the elf is willing to pay for those extra troops for Yurik as well, because Yurik's out of money, as usual. So the expansion of Elven territory, as well as the threat of an invasion, has spurred another big building program. These areas filling up to get all the different little assets I want, but here building a fortification. My plan here is blow. See, the elf now has even more points. We're going to blow his 24 points that he has here on the 2 chits. I've only got 6 more. That's enough to... I don't remember what his level 2 thing is. Oh, Doppelganger. He could have doubled the unit. Yeah, it's too late now. He is going to freeze these 2 areas again. Now, he can't freeze this area next turn because he's planning on launching an assault. But he has to get into position to get all his forces there. And that hits Eastie again, as well as poor old Jamitland, weakening their economic standing. I spent 20-something on the dragon, keeping it out of Orcham's hands. Orcham actually didn't even bother bidding. He's just kind of given up here. He did build the maximum number of Imperial Guard. Now, if he gets captured as a leader, he could be killed and out of the game. And then everything's wiped out. But if his territory gets taken, he's also out of the game, but all his money goes to the capturer. That's a significant difference, and something the elf is very interested in. There's a decent pile there, about 100 and something, which would definitely help fuel things, although I don't know how much money matters when they got about 500 sitting here. Just huge, huge income, and especially now I'm adding to the amount of territories that I have. It went from 100 to like 150 by adding one of these merchants. I've added 2 more. It's going to go up higher. The income is just getting to be this ridiculous amount where I can fund whatever the hell I like. So Yurik isn't even a drain anymore. Even if he goes beyond what he's paying me mandatory because of his subjugation. I don't see much hope for the Necromancer here. It looks like the elf just has too powerful a spell for the Necromancer to be, with this, being able to freeze units. But we'll see. He does have a couple of loose units. Maybe he'll get lucky. Maybe he'll be able to defeat the dragon here. That's actually not that unlikely. He's got a powerful force. But here's the problem. He can't bring his undead all the way down. And if he moves into striking range, Yorick may take him out with the intention of pushing further north. What the elf's going to be doing is kind of conquering one territory per turn. This turn, it's this territory. Next turn, it's Easty. After that, well, it may go to 2 territories, but to take this is going to require a significant expenditure, so he may not really want to engage in that. We'll see if the Necromancer has any tricks up his sleeve that help. Okay, so during the combat round, the elves convinced Yorick to move up here, which blocks the route 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 into Halsinger's capital. So I can leave just the dragon there. It doesn't matter. I could have left it empty. There's nothing that can reach this boat can. I don't think this one can. I'm kind of in this hex, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how these work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I'm too far to reach that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I could probably reach this with these humans. The dragon can handle that, though. And nothing else can be loaded up. There weren't any other troops. That allowed me to pull troops out to move them into here where I don't have to pay maintenance for them. That fight was tougher than I thought. I'm left with very little value, in part because of the fortifications and everything. Ended up, you know, coming out to be not a really close fight. I don't think I could have handled a double dragon sitting there had that been the option. Also moving significant forces into place here in Pommern and positioning here. So I feel like the screws are really being placed on basically within the next turn or so. I think we're gonna start seeing things break open in an extent that maybe we can call the game at that point. I don't know. Hard call, but even with his ability, the Necromancer didn't want to face this. He's outnumbered. He swung over. But here, he is making an attack. He launched a boat from here, and this boat that was curving around here that probably couldn't have taken this space, up to try to take Solorian. I see this as kind of the weak underbelly at this point, although if I could unleash my major forces, I'd be in pretty good shape with the Necromancer, but I don't think I can do that. Now, unfortunately, the elf still has points left to throw another woody in the way. Let's see if that's actually worded correctly. Yeah, it's any combat in which... Oh, non-chaotic area. He cheated last time too. Oh well. Crap. Alright, so, well, I'm not going to cheat a second time. I was not worried about chaotic. I was worried about, gee, can I cast it on defense? Because I know something had to do with attack. Anyway, my point values come out to 17 and 20. 17 for the elf, but he's in... Oh, that's not a chaotic area. He can cast it. I didn't cheat. So let's give him 5 more. I'm willing to make some mistakes in this game and not be upset with myself because it is so tangled a mess. So the Necromancer's ultimate necromancy ability is going to help him here, perhaps. It would have probably helped him against Yorick too, so we don't know. But let's see what we have. This is a neutral area with a good defender and an evil attacker. 0. Solorian is not bad. It's +2. Imperial Guards are normal units, so that's 6 more strength. So now it's 28 on the defense to 20 on the offense. I got the +5 wall, +3 leader. That puts me to +8. Make it +6. No, just +8. And these poor humans only have a +2 leader, which gets countered by the Pegasus to a 0. So I said +8. This is not going to go well for the attack. +8 gets me a 9. A lot of damage could be good. And a +9 is also there. So now my 20 is going to be straight up bonused by 10. This is not a 28. This is only a 17, 22, which is also +10. I subtract 30, and I'm only allowed to keep 8 points of stuff. That means not the Pegasus, and well, I'll kill the Woody off too because of the elf. Now, all of the Necromancer units are destroyed, but this is where it gets cool, and why the Necromancer can win battles when he attacks with less force. 50-50 chance on each of these units that it comes out as an undead. So, let's check for the 2 that I just threw in the thing from the elf side. And we get 2 undead for that. 2, 3, 4. I got 5 more rolls. I'm at 4. Only 1 die. Okay, so I'm going to be at 4 undead as all these humans get thrown out. I get to keep my leader, I guess. That's not absolutely clear. I've only got 3 I can take, but I can take 1 off the map. In order to create that. Okay, so now I have 16 strength points for the evil player. And the elf is at only 5. You can see how this works. It's not pleasant. And now we still have the points though for that, which I think is like 5 points. It's got to be more than that. Defense is neutral, is 0. What were we at? 16 gives me +2. That's going to be 6. So it's 11 to 16. The evil player is at +2 now. He has nothing to scare him. Whereas the good player is at +6 because there's piles of undead there. So +2 gets me the 8, +6 gets me up to the 16. 16 on a 5 is 5 strength points. And here it's a roll of 8, but on 16 strength points, that's going to add 8. The Necromancer wins. And he has to lose all but 2 of these, but then he's able to regenerate the rest of them, and bang! He got a victory where there shouldn't have been one under normal conditions. And that's what's cool about the Necromancer's power. Now we're going to have some conversion over, and now he's got a foothold over here. I wish I could have gotten this guy along the coastline because I've got more coastal troops coming. He might have been able to beat Uruk. I mean, that ability is really, really potent, because especially against larger stacks. Against a single unit like the dragon, it's not going to do a damn thing. But against these large stacks, I can start trimming the enemy's forces away and getting half of them back along with half my own original forces or whatever. I mean, I might get lucky. Anyhow, that was impressive. As we enter another turn and get this guy up to 24 power. Not that it really matters, because like I said, because he won the game, he has his power no matter what. Ah, the new random event, Surtur's Mutation. Now this is one of the cooler ones. Units just change into different kinds of units according to this. Like elflings turn into goblins, elves turn into orcs, la la la, all the way down. And they go both ways. It's just craziness. Flipping everything around really can make things very, very weird. This is going to be kind of hard to handle because some of the unit types I think we're pretty low on. So like dwarves, there aren't a lot of dwarves, so I have to be kind of careful the order I do these in. But I also have to do them sequentially around the board. So mechanically, this is going to be a pain in the ass. But it's the funniest thing in the world. I mean, you know, like giants, which are really potent critters, they're going to turn into ogres, which aren't bad. But it's just, they're cheaper. It's just really weird to see, to have this happen. I hope I got that all right. It's a royal mess. One thing I didn't realize, I thought the undead were immune to this. But yeah, they went over to humans and humans to undead. So we have like this, just tons of undead kicking around over under Urik's army now, where they're less valuable than his humans. But on the other hand, the necromancer now has this huge maintenance cost just assessed against him with all these humans on the board. On the bright side, though, there are a lot more undead available, because there were a lot more undead on the board than there were humans. I ran into a situation where I think there aren't the same number of pieces. I can look that up. So for example, let's see if we've got this. Yeah, they don't tell you. Oh, maybe they do. No. Nah, they don't specify whether you have the same number of pieces of each type. But for example, there seem to be more Cav than Pegasi. So I had to make a quick decision. The guy who gets kind of the choice of conversion or first conversion or whatever is going to be the initiative player. So essentially he was able to get some Pegasi that he wouldn't have gotten due to countermix limitations, just by sort of the random order that I did things. There weren't any left. And it reduced the total number of Pegasi available to the elf player. That's fine. But serious blows across the board. I mean, like elves, for example. Like with the undead, I've got a pile of elves that didn't cost me anything. Now I've got a pile of orcs. I don't know what to do with them. You know, I've got to send them somewhere and attack. Worst comes to worst, though, I can always take them as losses whenever, you know, when maintenance comes around, if I don't want to keep them. But I don't think that's the case. I think I really, and not that I can do it, but I don't think it's the case that I want to, because right now, money seems to be flowing pretty heavily. Troops, especially troops in useful locations, are more of a rarity, and I need to have those in place. But boy, is this a weird situation here. Giants here now. Can giants go on boats? That sounds kind of weird. It doesn't say they can't. I know Pegasi cannot, or something can't. I thought it was Pegasi that can't. Jeez. I don't know. Anyway, weird situation. Of course, there are fewer giants in a unit of giants, but you'd still think they're kind of too big to fit on any given boat. I don't know. All right. I guess we go to the economic stuff. Boy, that was just a mess, and very, very cool too. But no, we got the dragon first. I don't know what to do with that, because that was such a crazy thing. So one of his advantages had been he had a bunch of giants here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He could make a quick strike and seize Svartsen. That was why he went where he did. Now he doesn't have anything that moves that fast. So he's kind of stuck in the middle of mountains he wouldn't have gone to. He probably would have challenged Urik. Urik's forces have gotten a lot weaker, though. A bunch of undead. You know, some Pegasi, Vikings, what the hell. Just totally different stuff than he had. One big factor, all the dwarves, they had all been equipped with mechanical tools or whatever, the siege engines, weaponry. That makes them cost twice as much, but they maintain at the normal price, and they end up as 8 strength units instead of, what, 5 strength, I think, normally? Let's find a dwarf. Yeah, normal dwarves are 5 strength. So that's a really cool thing about dwarves, is you spend once and you get a more powerful unit all the time at normal cost. But this conversion, there are no dwarves with weaponry anymore, and they can only put those up when they're in a capital city. So a lot of the dwarves are going to be running around, these poor guys on boats. They used to be Vikings with a bonus for landing. Now they're unarmed dwarves looking for a place to land. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'm looking for, okay, who's got a place they're afraid of losing? So he's kind of afraid of losing this. He may be bidding on the dragon for that. I don't think anybody can take anything from Yurik. I don't think the elf can lose anything at this point. But, well, this is also a potential place for the dragon so that I can build up more forces there and prepare to go forward. Of course, I lost all my undead that used to be there. A dragon might be interesting there as well, as kind of the two places where I think the necromancer might actually have units at risk. Oh, who knows, though? What do we got here? Anything fast enough? Yeah, we got fast enough stuff that it could hit Corrigan. Jesus. Yeah, I had to break down. The elf turned in 500 gold for one of these. That's going to count as 500. Because I can't see money being limited in this. I don't see an advantage to doing so. Lighter taxation from the good players. The evil players still cranking things up at a full wartime 3 times. Not the heavy taxation, but your economy is not going to expand quickly at this. But for the good player, he's got so many territories and really doesn't need the cash. The evil player had so many in good shape. The only thing that he really wanted to increase were these two in particular. Well, the Jamit land as well. But Silurian doesn't have a castle yet, so he's not going to get any benefit from lower taxes there this turn. He's probably going to have to do it in later turns. You can see he bought the dragon here. Well, lots more troops being built, and assets as well. The necromancer building up a bigger and bigger navy. He's looking at this as being kind of the weaker spot to hit, but this is weak too. Really, the elf actually just doesn't have that huge a force. Much of his money has gone into Yurik's forces here. There's definitely kind of a weird situation down here. I'm not sure what I'm going to freeze yet. I've got 2 freezes. I kind of want to hit this, but here's the problem. I don't get first strike, which means this could come down and smack me. And then, well, I got my cavaliers, which could attack, conceivably. But maybe some defenses could be left up. So I'm not convinced that I can win that fight yet. I got all my forces poised to fight it, but I don't think I have the force to win it. On the other hand, a victory here would be impressive, but the dragon's there, and I don't have a lot of forces in that area either. It's just, can I reach from here with, because I got some Pegasi here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not quite. So yeah, it's kind of a difficult situation for the elf. He's got a very, very powerful holdings, a lot of money, an ally, but he can't really get a grip on anything. I think it's absolutely vital that I freeze this thing. So we're going to have, what, it's 12 bucks for a freeze. I'm going to do 2. I'll hit that. That's Jamistland. We're bringing that down pretty damn low. And then what's our other freeze? We're not too terribly worried about this getting out. We are kind of worried about this sucker. And continually beating up on Eastie, that might be of some value. Of course, then where do we come to grips with the necromancer? I mean, we can keep fighting him here as he keeps shipping troops over, but we're kind of in this weird, annoying stalemate if we just freeze that. I got to bring some of my troops into play, though. So freeze it I will. Not what I wanted to do. I wanted to launch an attack, but I got a bunch of stuff that's not as powerful as what I used to have in the general area, and I got to bring more forces up. This big naval power, that's going to be dangerous. I can see it taking this pretty easily, although not this turn because it takes points to load up the ships and launch them. But that I want boats for the elves. They get to buy last, and it would give me a little bit more mobility overall for maybe this stack. Yeah, let's buy a boat with the elves. I feel like I'm missing an important tool in terms of my total ability to kind of maneuver around rapidly. So the stasis affects the Necro Pal too. Leaving here, thoughts about maybe attacking these orcs? Well, those are orcs against the guy with the most money in the world. Those are 10 points each, essentially. It's a little bit more than I want to face. Greater numbers, better troops, less leadership. And of course, I have the advantage of being able to turn things around to more undead, but I certainly don't want to bring my Lord Krager with me. And there's nowhere else to go. I mean, if I march down this way, I will not reach here. So you've got this kind of something that I don't think you'd see in the full area game, in the base game. You've got this positioning where you don't really want to make the move on the other guy. Because, for example, I could have grabbed this territory and had a fair chance of thinking maybe the dragon could hold out with the fortresses and whatnot. But here I can't reach here, so I can't even make this trade-off and get this evil area that I want. I am launching a bunch of boats, though. Look at all that. And I ferried the ships back from Solorian over here. These guys found themselves a nice little place where they can threaten either of these two capitals, which puts Yurik at a dangerous position. But Yurik now has the force he could swing up here. This is no guarantee with a couple of giants and a dwarf in there. The dwarf's not too impressive. But with the two same territories frozen, there's not a lot that can be done here. Got to choose what to do with Yurik. The elf's obviously unable to maintain this stasis and sees an equal threat here to what he's kind of providing here. So he's going to go for Solorian. We see Yurik moved his way into the mountains. He's planning on stomping this thing. He's going to have a lot of force on that. That's too big a threat. He's got to kill it. But that still doesn't answer the question, because now there's more forces building up here. So another prominent stack will conceivably be coming out of there. There's just too many armies from the Necromancer. So an attack on Solorian, even with the dragon, seems like a good idea, especially since, hey, the Necromancer's right here. Maybe I can kill him off. Hey, better than that, he's got less areas than I do. I can subjugate him. It's all over if that happens, right? Okay. However, he has a chance of escaping still. Just not as good a one as if he's attacked. Well, let's see if it's all over here. We've got 3, 4, 5 fours. That gives me 20 strength points. The elf raised some of those. I've got 15 strength from a giant, which will give me a -2 to cancel out his fear factor. That makes 20, 25. Let's start with that. We haven't added the dragon yet. The dragon's, well, we'll see. Now I've got 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 orcs. Well, that would be 35 points, but if I throw in another 35, that goes up to 70. These armies are getting big, aren't they? Alright, I've got the dragon, that's 15 points. And then a d10. Which looks like another 3, not too good. So there's my bases, 38 and 95. Alright. Die roll modifiers. Both sides have a +2, which gets canceled out by the fear. +5 for the fortifications, though, on the evil side. Anything else? I can't think of anything. We'll use red for the evil. +5 means I roll an 8, they roll a 5. Now 95 at 5 is +13. This is only 38, but it's plus 16. All right, well, that's a big difference. Subtract 54. Obviously, the Necromancer lost. He's only got, the elf is allowed to keep 54 points. I'll come back after I roll up what the Necromancer has left after this. So, with the dragon and all the Necromancer forces gone in, some of those dead orcs, I'm down to 4 units, which is only 16 strength points for the Necromancer. Oh, shit. You know what I forgot? I forgot the effect of the village. The village itself, it's going to be one higher... I don't remember on what level. Let's see. This was a neutral village. That's going to be a 0, but Solornian is worth 18. So that would be a +2. They're regular units, so 6 more strength points would be gone. That's going to put me down to only 4 of these. Let me see. The effect of the fortification on the miner. Wrong kind of miner. The multiplier goes up by 1. So, wait a minute, what were we at? We were at +2 times 4, it's going to be 8. 8 off. I was at 54. Yeah, I'll still be at 40. There's a chance of another. So 1 through 5. There's going to be another Necromancer unit in there. This is where we see the power of the Necromancer. Alright, 5 of those makes 20. Versus 40 only for the orcs now. Yeah. Oops. I forgot about these, didn't I? I forgot to kill those off. Those have to die too. 2 more possible Necromancer units. 1 through 5s. Okay, one of them comes back. Let's make that 24. Alright, 24 to 40, but we still have the fortress and the town. What did we say this was? This is a 0, this is +2, times 4 because of the fortifications, so it's 8 more. That can't be 40. 24 plus 8 plus... I wish I hadn't gotten rid of that fear unit. I'm trying to think, but I think this is the better strength modifier. Okay, so 40 for the elf versus 32 for the necromancer. That 32 though is only a 24 on the modifier, or maybe more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 24 on the modifier. Okay, so the necromancer's at +2, the elf's at 0. The necromancer goes up to +7 to the walls. That gives him an 11 to a 4. Now 4 on the 40 table is +5. And this on the 24 is 13. It's 45 each. That's a defeat for the attacker. However, that completely wipes out the necromancer army. No biggie though. I can raise them all as undead. And that's why you can't attack the necromancer. He's really a tough nut to crack. He's you outnumber him, you spend money, you do this, that, and the other, and he ends up with about as good an army as he had at the beginning. Was hoping for an easy victory there. No such thing, though. All right, I think I've made my way around now. I just got to pay my maintenance. I'll come back if anybody loses any money. Otherwise, this, as an example of the expenditures, the necromancer. Now, he doesn't have very many undead anymore. Paid 209 in his total fees for the turn. The elf only paid 135. That gives you a feel kind of for the flavor of their troops. Now, the elf has no undead at all. Yurik paid another 45, and he has a significant amount of undead, probably about equal to the necromancer at this point. So when you look at it, the necromancer is a little bigger than the two of them compared. Anyway, we shall push forward up into... Nope, the elf goes first. Up into turn 16 or something like that. And this is interesting. It really is. I would have called it if I didn't think it was. All right, let's send it.